Okay, so first we are just outlining Sally herself. I start with the eyes and then I go into her neck and shoulders. I blocked my eyebrows out before filming off camera. I will link a video of how to do that down in the description box below. But I do this on a lot of my cartoon characters that aren't necessarily humans or that have like weird body shapes and stuff, is that I take a white eyeliner pencil and I just roughly outline what I'm doing, where eyeballs go, noses, shoulders, necklines, and things like that. It just is a little bit easier for me to kind of work off of then, and white is easy to cover up with any color. Then I go in to paint her face. I think I'm just using a generic water-activated face paint here that I got off of Amazon. It's pretty old. They have other things like cream paints and things like that. Snazaroo, you can use Wet n Wild, or like you can be Makeup Athena palette. This is what I had available to match exactly Sally's color. So this is what I used. I do have a problem with water activated face paint and streaking, like lines. If anybody could like comment on like how to fix that, that would be great. I do set it with a little bit of powder because I'm going over it with some powder products for shading. I just think it makes it a little easier to work with. I don't know if that's necessarily correct. Water activated face paint and me are not the best of friends. I then go in to fill in her eyes with a shadow pencil from Sephora. And then I set it with a translucent powder. I think I'm using the RCMA no color powder to set it to minimize creasing. But don't quote me on that. The shadow sticks go a long way in helping they have great coverage and they help to not crease as much. I tried using face paint at first, but it just creased like way too much. The shadow sticks are meant to be eyeshadow, so they're meant to be on the lid. And so I just found that they don't crease as often. They give great coverage. They set very, very well. And you can use them in the waterline to really create like a nice full coverage white eyeball. I will link all of the products that I use down in the description box below. So if any of them tickle your fancy, you can check them out on your own time. But yeah, that's just my take on doing white eyeballs. Moving on, I am doing a little bit of shading around the eye area, and I just take a light blue eyeshadow and I go the whole way around the eye. And it's because Sally is this like claymation stop animation. I don't know exactly what she's made of, but she's like this stop animation character. So she's not actually cartoon and she's not like outlined or shaded really, but like there are shadows on her face. So I really wanted to create more depth on her face. So I tried to create like the shadowing or the shading of her eye sockets, as well as on her nose as well, to just give like a little bit more definition, to make the look a little bit more dynamic rather than like just flat and one color. So I start with this light blue, then I go in with a darker blue, and I use the darker blue just on the top of my eyes as well as on my nose to again create like a little bit more of like a deeper set look. If I had to do this look over again, I probably would do a little bit more shading and a little different shading, but I am pleased with how it came out for like a first time Sally look. Moving on, I am then just going and starting her stitching and her lines. She has like regular lips, and then she has like these stitches coming off of her lips and then stitching on her face and body. And all I'm doing is taking a dark blue paint and drawing those on, because in a reference photo that I have of her that I was working off of, her stitching isn't actually black like I had originally thought. It's actually blue to kind of match her skin tone. And so then I just went in with a little bit of a darker eyeshadow to fill them in a little bit more and to create a little bit more depth. Then I go in and I just start the crisscrossing of it all. This is really just like detail work. You don't have to necessarily get her stitches precise. Lord knows I probably didn't. I tried to get them as exact as I could, but I mean, stitches are stitches. You can probably just draw a couple lines and X's and it would be totally fine. Like I said, this is really just detail work, and you can get as in-depth or as not in-depth as you would like. If you just want to draw like the stitches, and that's fine, that's fine. I then went back in after I drew all of the stitching, and I went over the stitches with a silver eyeliner, again, just to kind of create a little bit more depth, because when the light hits the Sally doll in the movie, there's just like a whole bunch of different dimensions and shines and like lighting issues. So I just wanted to give the look a little bit more razzle dazzle, I guess, a little bit more oomph rather than it just looking so flat. After I did that, again, just more detail work. I wanted to add a little bit more depth to her stitches. So I did a little bit of shading around each end of the stitches to give it a little more like pressed in look, like they were actually pushed into a fabric. Again, not necessary. I just thought that the look looked a little flat, and so I was trying to add a little bit more depth to it. Again, if I had to do this again, I'd probably spend a little bit more time on this, but it is what it is. So after this, I move on to the eyes, and these aren't eyebrows. I did not want to line the eye socket with black because it's not like a defined accent or accentuated line. I just wanted to, again, create like an eye socket. So I took a little bit of eyeshadow and I kind of like shaded an eye socket. And then I moved on to coloring her lips, which I outlined it first with lip liner. And then I actually went in with one color and I didn't like it. So then I changed it, but then cut off the clip too soon. I go in with like a nice deep cherry red first. And then I go in with a purple on top of it. And I kind of blend the two together to create like the Sally lip, because her lips are kind of like this purpley maroon color. They're not fully red, but they're also not fully purple. So I kind of had to play with it a little bit. After I did my lips, I then went back in with some of the blue face paint and I really just covered in any open spaces and lined my lips with the blue paint. So again, there were no like fleshy bits hanging out or anything like that. Then after I finished the lips, I believe I moved on to the eyes, back to the eyes. And what I did is I just outlined the eyeballs in black, and then I took that same black, I think I used liner, but it could have been paint, and I just created eyelashes, and I extend the eyelashes over the like eye socket line that I made. Again, it kind of creates the illusion of depth that her eyes are actually set back into my face, and that they're going up and over the like socket line, if you will. I don't know. Does that make sense to anybody? After the eyes, I just do a little shading on the nose, and then it is off to her clothes. I do not own a Sally costume, and they are quite expensive, to be honest, so I just drew one on myself. If you're obviously going to a party, you should probably invest in a Sally costume, but I was not going to a party. I just needed it for picture purposes. So I just drew the costume on like I drew her face, again roughly outlining the different sections and then painting them in with face paint and cream paint and things like that. I wanted to create a more cartoony like Sally instead of a more like human-like Sally. So I did create this kind of like skinny neck because she does have a rather thin neck. So then to create that illusion, I just fill in all of the quote-unquote negative space with black so it blends into the background. And I do go in with 2 coats because, again, this is a water-activated face paint, and so it is a little bit more on like the translucent side, so you really have to kind of build up the coverage. For her clothes, I don't do anything fancy other than just color the corresponding blocks with the corresponding colors on the reference photo that I have. In the actual reference photo and like on the actual Sally character, her dress does actually have pattern to it. I did not have the patience and or the time to sit and actually do all of the patterns on the dress itself. I think the fanciest I get with coloring in her dress is I do some stripes on one arm. But again, if you are taking pictures and you want to go the extra step and you want to do those patterns, by all means, go ahead. But I honestly think that for pictures, the hair covers most of it anyways. I just needed something so that you just wouldn't see like my shoulders, basically. When you're done with the clothes, finally you add the hair. This is a super duper cheap wig that I got scammed in buying wigs from some place. It's a long story, but anyways, it was a perfect Sally wig. This is straight out of the package. I probably should have straightened it before I actually put it on, but you know me, always flying by the seat of my pants. So I just put it on. And I combed through it, and then I took my flat iron to really flatten out any of the kinks and things like that in it, to really kind of create it straight. If I was wearing this wig to a party as Sally, I would have taken my steamer and steamed it straight instead of using a flat iron on it, because flat irons and hot tools don't really work all that well on synthetic wigs. What you really want to use is steam. So if you ever want to straighten a wig, take a steamer, like a clothes steamer, and take your comb and steam it straight, kind of like steaming the wrinkles out of your clothes. But again, in a pinch, this worked just fine. And then that's it. That's the Sally look. I will link all of the products that I used in the description box below, so if you are interested, you can check them out on your own time. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up. As always, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I would hate for you to miss out on any more videos. Thanks so much for watching, guys.